one of the things that we forgot to talk about last week is what we're doing with the podcast. So, because we were doing pretty regular every 2 weeks, and then we moved offices yet again. So we took a bit of a break, and then we introduced the world back to Mandy. And here we are with Mandy again. So she doesn't really know it yet, but she's my regular co-host now.
Oh, okay. For a moment I did wonder, like, did I take a job that I didn't actually agree to?
You did.
I also did not know this.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
So at least we're on the same page of not knowing what the hell.
Well,
but here we are.
It's hard finding somebody every 2 weeks, somebody different every 2 weeks.
I would imagine so.
Like if this was what we did, like a podcast all the time, then that's different. But when I have every other thing going on, it's like, I got to find somebody to do a podcast.
I can find you people to talk to.
And then,
Force them here.
And then it's finding people that are, interesting is a word I'll use with you.
You know what? I'll take it. Out of all the things you could say about me, that's really not the worst.
Yeah. So that's what we're doing. Moving forward. So congratulations on your new position.
Wow. What an honor.
Yeah.
I would like an offer letter though.
Okay. We can
How
do
much
that.
do I get paid?
The same amount as I do.
That's 0.
Yeah.
Fair. Okay.
Yeah. So,
right.
Get some sponsors and we can talk.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Deal.
Yeah. You know people.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I know all the same people you do, though. That's the problem.
I know. So, last time we talked about all the reasons why you don't like realtors, which was fun.
That's not true. Realtors are my people. I like really, really good realtors, and there is a lot of them. What I don't like is the crappy, lazy agents. Yeah. Like, I don't like that. That does not work for me or for anyone.
So today I want to talk about business, like starting a business, because there's some thoughts. And because before you got into real estate, you were a hairstylist, right?
Yes, sir.
Was that like a business that you did? I mean, I know kind of like a contractor, you rent out your booth and all that stuff. Is that how it was?
Yeah. So I didn't actually go into a salon because for me, it was salons are kind of similar. Like I've always said that hair and real estate they're two different animals, but they're very similar in the sense that like, when you're going into a salon, you're either going to do a booth rent situation where you're going to pay rent for to be in their office, right? Like some brokerages actually operate this way. Or you can be one of their employees and you have basically a split structure with them.
Gotcha.
But to me, it was like, okay, it's kind of the same concept as people who go ahead and get their broker license, because then the fees change and you certainly are at that point running a complete business on your own and you hold way more liability. But to me, it was like I wanted to cut out the middleman because it didn't make sense to me to take either one of those options. So it was actually very similar to real estate. So I did it on my own. Like I just converted a room and turned it into a salon, put in a sink, and got everything that I needed, and that's what I did.
Nice. So when you start a business, and real estate agents is interesting because it's a business that very much revolves around Friday, Saturday, Sundays, right? Because it's open houses, it's showings, that's when you're writing your contracts and all that stuff. So it's pretty much every weekend for the most part, right? Especially during the busy season. But what do you think is one of the bigger or biggest challenges when starting a business versus when you move on and you start becoming successful? For example, when you first open a business, it's pretty much 7 days a week, right? And because you don't want to tell anybody no. You want to build as fast as you can. So it's that 7 day a week, 24/7 grind of never saying no and just constantly working. But despite what all these people are saying on Facebook about the hustle and the grind, and you got to answer the phone at 9 p.m. And 2 a.m. and all those things, that's not why we start a business, right?
Right.
We start a business because it's either something we're passionate about, because it's something that we, whether you want to help people or whatever your business is, you start a restaurant because you're passionate about that type of food, right?
Yeah.
Or you see a opening or a hole or something, a void that you feel like you have something to offer to fill that, right? And like, hey, this doesn't exist. I can do this. And then you can make money doing it, right?
Yeah.
But the whole purpose of starting a business is to, one, generate money, and two, to a degree, you want a flexible schedule, right? I mean, it doesn't always work that way, right? I mean, I know like restaurant industry, there's no such thing, right? Yeah. But we don't create a business so we can work 7 days a week. But there's this mentality that you have to. So for me, one of the hardest things to do is make that transition from 7 days a week, right, to saying yes all the time, to taking back some of that time and actually saying no and trying to normalize what we do as far as hours and things like that, right?
Yeah.
You know, there for a while, after I brought Courtney on, when I brought her on, I was like, hey, I need you to say no for me. Right.
Yeah.
So someone,
I love it.
Yeah.
She's like, deal. Let's
yeah.
go.
So someone would call me and I'm like, yeah, I'm kind of busy. Call the office and they'll get you straight, you know, just because I know I can't say no. It's gotten easier. I now have no problem for the most part. There are still some people that I'll still say yes to.
Me.
Yes.
When I'm like, Sidney, I don't want them. I want you to do it. And you're like, fine.
But just like we talked about last time, the walk and talks, right?
Yep.
For the most part, I mean, yes, we advertise that we do it. Mm-hmm. And certain agents, we still will do it. If we have those gaps in the schedule, sure. But for the most part, it's a no.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't make sense for you guys.
It doesn't. Because one, as busy as we are, we're exchanging and as easy as they are for us, we are exchanging a lesser value product. Mm-hmm. Or a higher one for a lesser one, right? We're not making the money on that. That's a business decision, right? Yeah. And then two, the other side of it is it's Saturdays and Sundays. It's constantly like noon. What are you doing?
And it's last minute.
Yeah. It's like, you know, there was a time where I would, you know, cancel my plans and like, all right, let's go do it.
Yeah.
But now it's like, no, you know, it's like Sundays are a day where I don't do anything. You know, especially during the summertime because we live in New Camp and it's nothing but traffic on 64 going back and forth to the beach. Yeah. So once I get home Saturday, like I don't leave the county on Sundays. Yeah. And it's just not worth it anymore. You know, but we're also in that place that we can do that. Yeah. So that's kind of where the question came from is where do you think one of the harder things as you start to grow your business that you have found?
I honestly think it's that, and it goes hand in hand with it becomes a mental thing. I think when you're new and you're starting out, like the reality is when you're trying to grow a business or a clientele and you're trying to get this thing off the ground, like there is no such thing as balance. Like you haven't earned that luxury yet. And this was true when I did hair, and it's true in real estate too. Like I've always said, like, if you know, a lot of my background is custom home building, and I got into that when I was brand new. But, you know, people have made comments to me where they're like, oh, I would love to do that. You're so lucky, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, like, yes, I feel really fortunate that it was right place, right time, right people. But the reality is, like, I worked my face off. Yeah. Like, if you knew me back then, you cannot say that I did not work my butt off. Yeah. And so I think, you know, in the beginning, it is you have to put in the hours and you have to learn and you have to, you know, just push really hard through that. There is no balance in the beginning, but I think eventually you do get to kind of that mental challenge of like, okay, you've probably reached burnout at this point and you're having to kind of readjust. And I think that is something that people need to prepare for and be used to. And, you know, I was talking with an investor, and he now has like completely stepped away, but he built this like empire. Yeah. And he was saying though, like every few years he had to get a whole new friend group, and he would have to like completely like recenter and restructure and go through that over and over again, like every few years. And I think that that's a lot of what happens is I think you get to a point where you know, you've just been like head down focused, and then you're like, okay, this isn't working, and what do I want? And then you start putting those boundaries in place, and it's really hard to do.
It is hard to do.
Especially because people are used to you saying yes, right?
Yeah.
Like they're used to you doing whatever they want, and you have to get to a point of like, all right, like, because what is the point in starting a business and building this if you don't eventually get to take your foot off the gas a little bit to enjoy what you've built, but you can't just like pull all the way off. Like that's not going to work.
No, you can't. And the burnout thing's real. So if you don't pull back, even if it's a week, 2 weeks, whatever it is that you need to take a break and reset, like it's going to be like, you're going to be done. Right. That's why there's so many businesses, so many restaurants, especially, you know, I've said restaurants a couple times because it's just a hard industry to be in because the margins are razor thin to begin with. And there's such high turnover in that industry for employees, you know, but it's a real thing. And that's why so many of them, they do great for 3, 4 years, 5 years. And all of a sudden they're like, yeah, we're done. You know, we're going back to our, you know, Capital One job or whatever it was, you know, 9 to 5 kind of thing.
Yeah.
But you've got to start. But a lot of people fail in the sense of where is my plan? You know, because I don't want to be, you know, for me in crawl spaces 5 days a week,
Right.
you know, 6 days a week, 7 days a week. Not that I don't enjoy that, but at the same time, there's other aspects of this that I enjoy, that I want to do. I want to grow it, and you can't do both, right? Yeah. But one of the hardest things is being able to, you know, in this industry is to normalize those hours, you know, because realtors have this thought, and it's not wrong. It's because it's the nature of real estate. Like I said, it's weekends, right? And then it's the nature of just how it's been for years is that, and I see it in these mastermind groups. What do you do? An agent will ask a question. What do you do if your lender doesn't answer the phone at 9 p.m. on a Saturday? And you see all these answers, find a new lender. And it's like, wow, you know, I can't take my phone into the pool. Okay. Right. You know, I mean, there are times that I actually have to just put my phone away so it doesn't get lost, broken, damaged, whatever, you know, and I can't physically answer it.
Yeah.
But that's the mentality.
Yes.
For some agents, not all. You know, there's a lot of good agents that we work with that understand, like, hey, we have families. You know, it is summertime right now. We do have things that we want to do.
Yeah.
So I get hit up all the time for VHDA classes for first-time home buyers, and I enjoy doing those. There's a lot of fun. Yeah. Get to actually educate people on what we do, so a little bit more informed. But when you look at the calendar, like, man, I'm being asked every single Saturday to do one. At some point, I gotta say no. Yeah. Because I want a Saturday not to do anything, you know, or to do things with my family, right? Yeah. You know, this summer has been fun, you know, because like I said, you can't fully step away, but I've been fortunate enough this summer because we have a lot going on. You know, training for a competition, which Saturday will be done, thankfully. And then, you know, we talked about before, and we'll talk about the event later, but the whole Fatherhood Foundation Funding Father campaign, that's taken a lot of focus. Yeah. So I haven't been able to focus as much on the business side. But fortunately, I've got guys and office people, Courtney and Amanda, that even though I haven't been 100% present in the business, it's still been getting done. With minimal interruptions, because I've been fortunate enough to have enough people that are good at what they do, and they're adults, and most of the time,
don't need to be managed.
and they don't need to be micromanaged. You know, they work through the problems, and I still get the texts and stuff from time to time, but you know, I sent an email out this morning just thanking them just for being able to.
You sent that thing yesterday.
Whenever
the updated email. I was sitting at dinner
together,
and I saw that email
together.
And it said update, and I was like, oh my gosh! So I look at it, I open it up, and it's like 5 paragraphs. Yeah. It's insanely. I was like, oh my god, this is long.
Wow. Yeah. Sidney wrote a love letter to you.
I did.
When is mine coming?
But because I recognize that, you know, they've been carrying the load for the last couple of months.
And good for you.
Yeah.
Like, good for you for doing that, because I think a lot of business owners don't take the time to thank the people who make things work behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Like,
I thought we were in trouble.
What?
I fully thought that we were in trouble.
Oh, I bet. I would. I'd be like, oh no,
Update.
Sydney's
Oh my God.
You're all fired.
Like, I mean, I don't know that if I don't know if I got a 5-paragraph email from Sidney, that my first thought would be like, oh, it's a love letter.
Yeah, that's right.
So grateful for me.
That's right. Sold the business. I'm done.
Yeah.
You're somebody else's problem. But
No, but I think that's great, because I think a lot of people don't put the emphasis on thanking the people who are behind the scenes for them and giving them the credit for what it is that they do as well.
Yeah. So I couldn't do that a year ago or even 2 years ago or whatnot, be able to focus on these other things for a few month period. Right. While still maintaining margins of the business, and it's not just them, it's also being able, to have good referral partners, people that, I haven't done a ton of networking in the last few months. Right. We've done some marketing things, more passive. We've done some pop buys, things like that, but it hasn't been aggressive as it probably should be. But we have agents that refer us every time. Before even someone, Jamie over, your office, before anyone says, I need and she's already saying our name, right?
Well, yeah, and I can see it in like the threads online too. Like, I love to see your guys' name pop up over and over again, but it is a testament to like the power of doing what you do and doing it well and actually really caring, right? Like, things happen. But I think, at least for me in my business, like the thing that I'm most grateful of is people give me a lot of grace because they know, like, I really care. Like, if something goes wrong, even if it's not my fault, like, I will apologize and I will do everything that I can to make it right. And people have literally like been upset about stuff, and I am doing everything that I can. And they're like, well, Mandy, it's not your fault. Like, I'm not telling you this because I want you to fix it. And I'm like, but I want to fix it. Like, I literally care about what your experience is. And I think you guys are the same way. So then it makes it really easy to refer those people, because it's like they're going to do everything that they can to try to give you a really good experience. Yeah. But it doesn't mean that it's foolproof. Like, it doesn't mean that stuff doesn't happen, because it does.
Sure, it does.
But
absolutely.
I think I have a question for you, because, I'm 6 years into this thing, and I think I'm at that point where like I need to hire more help. And it is so hard. It is. Like, I am really struggling with that. And I have, my biggest mentor is telling me like, you need to get somebody. Like, I know you don't want to do this, but like, you need to get help. And, some of my really good friends who have been in the business longer than I have are like, it's time. Like, you need to get someone to kind of help take some things off your plate so that you can push forward. But I think that's the like challenge that I'm in right now, is that is terrifying, especially when you've built something so carefully, and to like let someone else have at it. It scares the heck out of me.
It's hard. Jeff and I talk about this all the time. No one cares about your business like you do.
No, and they shouldn't. I don't expect that of them.
But when you first hire somebody for the first time ever, and you don't let go, you don't. You're doing two jobs at that point, right? And
paying somebody to do a job that you won't let them do. Because
you're constantly like, hey, did you do this? Did you do this? How did you do this? Mm-hmm. Let me see this before you send it, just to make sure that they're keeping up with what you've built, right? Yeah. That image, that branding, all the things that made you successful. There's a movie when the Rock first started getting into movies, the Gridiron Gang. And where he's like starting a football program for like without detention center. Yeah. And he's like, your way got you here. Now it's time to do it my way. Right. My way is going to get you someplace else. And it's kind of that what you have to try to get them to realize, like, hey, I'm successful because I did it my way. Right. Right. These are the ways that will, if you do it your way, not that you don't know what you're doing, but I'm not willing to sacrifice what I've built to do it another way, right? Yeah. People call me because we do it a certain way, and I need you to be sure that you're going to do it that way. But there is that, for some people it's a month, sometimes it's 5 or 6 months, that transition period where it's just like constantly texting. Did you get that email? Because my whole thing is communication, right?
Yeah.
If we get an email, they need to get a response back. Even if it's, hey, I'm busy, I'm going to look into this later on. I received your email. I'll get to it
Yeah, just
later.
don't leave them hanging.
And it's just constantly, hey, did you get that email? Did you see this? Did you get that text? Till finally like, hey, leave me alone, right? I got it. I can read.
Yeah.
But it's hard. It really is hard because I screw up, whatever. It's my business, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when someone else screws up, then it's all the thoughts, why did they screw up? What's the fallout from this? Are they going to tell people, we're going under, we might as well close the doors.
Yeah.
So it's a big thing, especially in real estate, just because like when you're in, you miss an email, it can affect closing, or it can affect the loan or whatever. Because
my thing is the contracts. Like
Yeah.
I am known for like,
they didn't check the right box.
yeah, like I put so much emphasis on this to the point that now I'm lucky enough to teach it. But like they are curated with as many outs as I possibly can give them. And so to me, it's like, if you're going to do things the way that I do them, like if you are not careful with this, like it's a contract.
Yeah.
Like it is not that simple to just weasel your way out of things because you screwed up.
And
that's tough.
Explaining it to them so they understand it.
Yep.
Right? Because I've seen several times where we show up and the agent's like, hey, we waived everything under 5,000.
Oh.
And the client's like, is that one item collectively?
Can
we ask for anything under 5,000? Is that what that means? Like we're at the inspection. Like the contract's ratified and they don't really understand what that means.
Which is nuts because they've signed it.
Yeah. And
right?
you can tell
like they've agreed.
When the agents explain it to them, they get that look like, oh.
Yeah.
That's so they have no clue. So yeah, so you're going back to hiring somebody. If they're having these conversations with people, then it's like, are they having the right conversations? Are they fully explaining what they're doing like you would?
Yep.
Yeah. One of the other things is the fact that when you hire somebody, like in this industry, as a home inspector, as a realtor, when you're by yourself and you're good at what you do by yourself, you make all the money, right? And now you hire somebody. That's another stress.
Well, that's what you and I talked about after the event.
Yeah.
Like it is a completely, like, I do not take this lightly, right? All of, whether it was my business with hair or real estate at this point, like, yes, there are people behind the scenes and yes, I like pay them, but to me, it's completely different to have an employee that is like completely mine. And I think people, like, I'm very sensitive to the fact that like, yes, technically, like I have my little business, right? Like it exists and I run it and whatever, but it's just Mandy, right? Like I just got to pay Mandy's bills.
That's
like,
right.
And I always say that like to realtors when they're asking for all these sponsorships or they're going to like these, lenders who have employees or like other small business owners. And it's like, hey, like you're just trying to make a quick $100,000 or a few $100,000 for you and your family. But imagine like you're paying other people's bills. Like you are responsible for that. Like that's a huge stress and something that I just respect the hell out of because, I think people look at these small business owners who have a successful business or like CEOs of corporations or whatever. And I'm like, you have no idea the level of stress that they carry.
Yeah.
There's no way. Like I know how stressful it is just to like run my little ship. Right. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's another part that keeps me from like hiring is because then I'm responsible for paying somebody else's bills. Like I have committed to paying you this.
Yeah.
And
there's going to be
so
times
scary.
where that comes out of your pocket.
100%.
Because it's like, man, do I fire them because it slows down or do I just take less?
Yeah.
What does that conversation look like? And then on top of that, there's that, like I said, you're by yourself, you make all the money. You bring somebody on, your volume's not going to change for a while, right?
No.
So you're making less. And then you have to get to that point where you start making more. Now, real estate, it may look different, you free up some of your time, you probably do more deals, right? But as a home inspector, like I cap, right? There's only so many inspections I can do a week.
Right.
You know, if I hire Courtney as my first hire, it doesn't free me up from doing less home inspections or more home inspections, right? I could still only max out so many. So now the next choice is I've got to hire more inspectors, and that costs money, right? Because I got to outfit them, train them, and all the things. But there comes a point where it's like, yeah, I got, another inspector, 2 inspectors, my overhead increases. I'm not making what I was making when I was by myself. You have to get to that point where it makes sense, so maybe it's 3 inspectors, maybe it's 4, maybe it's 5 before all of a sudden you start like, oh, you know what? I'm making money again. Right. And it's not like we're making money hand over fist, but it's just being comfortable. So you're not stressed out as you were.
Want to be in the green.
So so a lot of people are like, well, I just need to hire one person. Well, if you do that, you're going to be really disappointed at the end of the year when you're like, where did all my money go?
Yeah.
Because you got to have a plan that once you start hiring, where do you go from there? Do you plan on starting a team? Do you plan on starting a partnership? Do you plan on why are you hiring somebody? Is it just to free up your time? Because if you're freeing up your time, there's a high probability that you're going to make less money. Right.
Yeah. And for a while, I don't actually believe you're freeing up your time. I think you're adding more to your plate.
You are. You 100%
while still having to maintain what you've been doing,
Yeah.
which is another part of I am a numbers freak. And so I really pay close attention to exactly this. And I think it is the idea of at some point in business, probably multiple times over, you're going to have to pull back in order to go forward.
Yeah.
And that's a very scary thing to do. And it also needs to be a calculated decision of, does this actually make sense in the long run? Is this actually going to push me forward? Because I think some don't take the time to think that through. And I know I've made similar mistakes of I thought something was going to be such a good opportunity and I pour myself into it. And then I take a step back and I'm like, this doesn't make sense.
Yes.
I have to pivot.
Yes.
I've really made those mistakes of I committed to something that this doesn't make sense. I've got to I got to go another way.
Yeah. Yeah. There's so many ideas in your head. Like, man, it's going to be great. This is going to work so awesome. No one else is doing this.
It's a real letdown when you're like, oh, I screwed up.
No, that didn't get the traction I thought I was going to get.
Yeah.
That kind of sucks.
Yeah. And I think that's the mental fortitude that's needed, right? Is you have to be willing to fail because you're going to over and over and over again. And there's a joke in my office that I quit all the time. And so people will say it now to me or to a broker. And the amount of times I'll get an email from her or something about new regulations changing or stuff that we have to go over for topics in class or whatever. And I just email her back and I'm like, please accept my written 2-week.
Yeah. Yeah.
She's like, nope, there's no quitting. But I mean, it does. That's a big part of it too in owning a business is you're going to want to quit. And at some point you're going to actually you're going to mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, you're done.
Yeah. And
you have to let that happen and then pick yourself back up and keep going. Yeah. And so, I hear a lot of people are like, I'm burnt out and I want to quit. And I'm like, that's not going away.
No.
No, it will never go away. No, and that's
the
hard thing.
Every other week I'm on LinkedIn looking at job openings, seeing what's
Literally,
out there.
Yeah. Every single business owner I know has wanted to quit multiple times. The only ones that are successful are the ones who let that happen and get back up. And because you have to, it's fine. You can quit, but you have to get back up. Otherwise, this is not going to work. You're going to bow out.
Yeah, it's a natural process. Waking up thinking hey, I'm, first email of the day, great. That's not the email I wanted to wake up to or whatever, phone call, text message. By lunchtime, it's one of those days you've gotten 30 phone calls by lunch. And it's you know what? I just want this to be somebody else's problem.
Yeah.
I can go work for somebody else and this can be all their problem. I just go home every day, shut it down.
I fantasize about it all the time.
Yeah.
Man, what would it be like to actually ever shut off? Because it's even when you think you're off, no, you're not. Because that text or that email or that phone call can come in at any time.
It can.
No matter
and it
what.
doesn't matter what you put into place, whether it's the automated email response, the automated text message, the voicemail to call the office, you know, you can run Google ads for a week to let the whole world know that you're off, you know, that to call this person if there's a problem. But there's still some things that you just have to deal with. Well, it's a you problem.
Yes.
You know?
And this was very good advice because funny enough, I had like a coaching session. So with Joe, so she's like been my biggest mentor throughout my whole career. And now that she's the broker, like, you know, I just told her, I was like, Joe, like I just need like Joe time. Like I need you to like, just tell me to suck it up. Like I need a minute. And so we did. And I was coming off of my family vacation and I have realized, like, I just told her, I was like, you know what? I think that I'm hurting my own feelings because I'm trying so hard before I take these trips. Like, I don't do a lot of vacations. Like, I really don't because it's so stressful. It's not relaxing or fun. And like, I'd rather just be home and be able to have a little less of that stress of like, okay, like I know crap's going to go wrong. So it's a lot easier when you're close by.
Right.
But you know, you put so much effort into doing exactly that. Like I have another agent that like I've trained and he's fantastic to like do things. And I sit down with him and I'm like, hey, here are the files. Here's where everybody is. Here's everything you need to know. Here's everybody's contact information. I'm like letting them know like, hey, here's who's taking over from me. I'm gone for these dates. Like, you know, you plan so much of like trying to get
just to
that
disconnect.
Freedom. Yeah. And it doesn't work.
It doesn't.
You know, and I told her, I was like, I think that I'm hurting my own feelings thinking that I can prep my way out of the reality that people just want me. Yeah. Like, and you
can't.
There's nothing that you can do.
We
like,
still get phone calls where like, well, I just want Sid.
Yep. Like when I got back, he literally like, I called him to check in and he was like, nobody like, I didn't hear a peep from anybody. And I was like, well, yeah, that's because they all called me. And he was like, why are they calling you? And I was like, because they want you. Like whoever they hired is what they want. And it is what it is. And so Joe was like, yeah, you are hurting your own feelings. Like you need to understand that like, this is how it's going to go. And if you go into it with those expectations, you're not going to be so resentful. And she was like, and you know, she was an agent forever, like agent and broker. And she did this for a very, very long time, like literally longer than I've been alive. And now she's in the broker seat. And she's like, here's what I can tell you. Like now that I'm somebody who has to sit here from 8 to 5 every day and still deal with all of the crap after hours. Right. But she's like, I promise you are going to like the freedom that you have more now. She's like, yes, like it never stops and you're never really off, but you do get to decide like, okay, I'm going to give you this 10 minutes of this phone call and then I get to go do whatever. Or, you know, set aside like, okay, I'm working these 2 hours to answer emails and everybody's concerns. And then I'm going to go do water slides with my son. And so I was like, you know what? Like it was kind of a reality check for me of like, while this sucks and while I wish it was different and while I wish all of the prep in the world was actually effective, I have to just accept like, this is your business. They hired you. You're fortunate that they wanted to hire you. Just do it. Like, just let it be what it is because trying to fight against it will drive you insane.
That's the one thing that gets me off LinkedIn is when I think like, well, are they going to let me go to an 8:30 jiu-jitsu class? Probably not.
Right.
Are they just going to let me, you know, not want to work on a Thursday morning? No.
Right. Right. And it's like, I do have that freedom of like, okay, I stop in the middle of my day to go pick up my kids because I want to be the one to pick them up from school. And so it's like, okay.
Can I just go without asking anybody to go help out my kids' field day?
Right. Or it's like, happen. You know, can I be on the phone with somebody like, yeah, your foundation, we're going to handle that. We're going to do this and this. But like also putting in a load of laundry at the same time, like, no, probably not. So it is what it is. And I think it was a good kind of lesson for me of like, while this is tough, it is the price you pay to have those moments of freedom when you want them.
Yeah. And you got to, again, this is part of, you know, when you start hiring, like what is your plan? Because because I still do inspections, right? Especially when one of the animals is off for a week, right? I mean, I got to clear my schedule and make sure I'm available to feel there, pick up that slack. But when I go out to an office and I talk to agents, because we don't really do the whole sponsor lunch for 3 minutes thing anymore, so when we go out to an office, it's because I'm doing a CE class or something to where I'm 30 minutes minimum in front of the agents, right? And when you can do that, that's when they really get to know you, right? They really realize that it's more than just you separate yourself from the other guy, right?
Yeah.
You only does those. Like, hey, I'm a home inspector. I find things, call me. My 3 minutes is up. So I still get that. Well, if I call you, do I get you? I want you, because now it's that double-edged sword. I'm spending more time in front of them to develop a relationship, but now they want just me.
Yep.
And I'm like, nope, you do not. But I have 3 very capable home inspectors that do it just like I do, So, and you can kind of see that look in their eye, like, but that's, versus, I'll talk about, Scooter, who owns Burgess Inspections. Scooter doesn't do inspections anymore.
No.
He's got a team of 8 or 9 inspectors. So when he can go to that office, people know, like, he's not doing the inspections anymore.
Right.
He's still the face of the company. But you call Burgess, you're not getting Scooter. There's not a chance, right? He has separated himself from that side of the business because he has hired enough inspectors to be able to do it. One day, that's the goal. Again, not that I don't enjoy it, but you can't grow a business if you're constantly in the business either.
Yeah.
But you're going to go through years of still people as you're doing, because you have an agent off, they're out, and then you get a request, a lead or whatever, or somebody's got to pick up that lead. Even though you want to pass it off, you're still that first face they're going to see, and they're going to be like, well, I just want to work with you.
Right.
Well, no, I'm just filling in because they're on vacation or they're unavailable. So I'm going to show you this house tonight. But I just want you now, and it's hard. It's hard until you get to that point where, like Joe, she's as she said, 9 to 5, right?
Yeah.
So she's not doing that anymore.
No.
I know she's the broker of Liz Moore, but if she was the team leader, she could really, really pick and choose. I only do my close friends. Like I don't do listings, I don't do buyers unless it's a close friend, and then I let my team handle everything else.
Which is funny though, because like she had this book of business that like now she'll refer to the agents in our office, and I still see it though. Like the ones that she's referred to me, she's still in the group chat. Like they still have such a hard time, even though like Joe does a really good job of hyping up her agents and being like, I literally picked them because I know how well you're going to click with them and they're awesome. And she'll just like completely hype you up, but it doesn't matter. Yeah. And they're like, yeah, like Mandy's great. Like, and that's fine. But it like Joe Lewis is still in that group chat every time they text. Oh, like they're not just texting me. Like
I get
she
those
is
emails.
Stuck.
Like, hey, Logan did this inspection and we're just wondering if.
Yep.
Well, okay, we'll call Logan. Like, I'll get to where they're like, hey, we don't know what this means in the report. Well, neither do I because I wasn't there.
Right.
Call Logan. Know. That's why their numbers are in all the reports and texts and everything. So you have their contact information. Now if they don't answer and you answer right away, let me know because they're in the field. They're doing inspections. They're not doing all that. But that's also a thing. And I'll get the phone call. And my favorite one is, hey, I was just online looking at the schedule and it shows that there's no availability for the week. Is that true? Yes.
We don't lie.
I mean, when's your next available? Well, Monday. Well, do you have anything before that? What about Friday?
You're like, honey, we talked about this.
I just said Monday.
Yeah. We already went there.
So I get those phone calls. Like it's like the magic switch. Like, oh, well, yeah, I'll just create more time.
Which also I find interesting because the amount of agents that I see that when they know their client, like the second, because you eventually when you do this long enough, I know. Like I tell people, you may not know when it's the one, but I know. Yeah. And I won't say anything, but there's this moment where you literally watch people and you're like, crap, this is it. Not crap, but like, you're like, okay, the second that happens, even if they haven't told me, right? Even if we're not standing on the front porch or they're in the driveway and they're like, I think this is I think we want to do it. What do we do? Like the second I get in that car, I am texting or calling you and being like, hey, if I write a contract, what is your availability so that I know to curate that offer based off of, and I'm literally calling the list agent and saying, hey, I can get my home inspector out on this day if we ratify within the next 24 hours. Would that work for your seller? Like immediately trying to schedule that. So it seems weird to me that like you're writing a contract and then being like, okay, well, can you come sooner? Because I only have like this much time. It's like, no, like plan for that.
Oh, 100%. But it also goes back to when you're growing a business, you have to be okay when you start saying no, or you start saying, I'm not available, call, this person use this person. You're going to get this agent, or this home inspector. You have to be okay with losing business, because there's going to be time. I know we have, I used to be able to text Sid 24/7 and he's just not as responsive as he used to be. So I gotta go find somebody who is. You have to be okay with that. Like 100%. You can't get your feelings hurt because that an agent that you had a really good relationship with is now using somebody else because you set those boundaries that my phone shuts off at 8 p.m. every night. Like I'm not answering those texts anymore. Or I'll redirect you to the office versus coming through me because I'm too busy to stop on the middle of 64 to start looking up calendars, see who's available. But because you're going to have that. You're going to have people who just say, you know what, I want the owner and only the owner. And I'm going to go find a company who's going to let me talk to the owner. It sucks, but you better be okay with it. Because if you're not and you get all up in your feels, then it's just going to be more stress for you.
And I think the thing that you reminded me of some of the best advice that I got when I was a new agent, because, I was in that like building, like head down focus, just like saying yes to everything. And then I was like having straight up panic attacks. Like I was like, this is too much. Like I'm so overwhelmed. And there's Justine in my office. She's a fantastic agent. I admire the heck out of her. But I was like, is this normal? Like, like this doesn't feel good. And, her and another agent were like, well, how many deals do you have going on right now? And I was like 8 are like happening right now. And they're like, right now, like they're all happening. And I was like, yeah. And they were like, okay, you screwed up. Like they were very blunt, but they were like, this can't happen. You need to decide, like figure out what your maximum is and what you can take on. Like this is you screwed up. Yeah. And they were very brutally honest about it, but it was some of the best advice. Cause like now I know what my limit is. And I tell people like, okay, what does your timeline look like? Because the reality is like, I can only take on 4 active buyers at a time. If you are actively dead serious about trying to get under contract on something, as soon as you find it, I can only take on 4 of you because I will literally run out of hours in the day, which is what was happening.
You do.
And they were like, you screwed up. This is on you. And I was like, okay. And they're like, you just got to let it ride and try to figure it out and like ask for help when you can. But moving forward, like figure out.
There's a limit.
Yeah, what you can do.
And that's hard because in this industry, you're constantly worried about tomorrow. So I got 8 clients right now. Tomorrow I may not have any. So I don't want to turn them away because I don't want to worry about it tomorrow, right? Which is another hard thing to get to in business. Anytime in inspections, I've learned that maybe twice a year, maybe three weeks out of the year, we'll get just a random slow week. Just random. Like it's never the same week. It's never the same time of the year. It's just random. Was
it 2 weeks ago? Because I felt like that was 2 weeks ago was when everything came to a standstill. I feel like
I think our last one was like around February. I mean, we were rolling.
Interesting. Okay.
Slow week. But it used to be that would happen, and you're like, oh God, what do we do? We got 4 inspections this week. The world's ending. So it's really hard to realize that, like, you know what? Next week we'll pick back up.
and to have faith that it really will.
Yeah. There's very few times in this industry that you can really see just a cliff drop off. You know, when the rates doubled overnight.
Yeah.
That was one. Probably the 2008 was probably another one. But for the most part, he's like, just a random week. Everybody's just kind of hanging out, whatever. Next week, right back to where we were. But you have to get in that mindset of it doesn't bother you anymore. And it's hard.
It's so really hard. And I think even still, 6 years of doing this full time, every start of the year, Mandy starts getting real squirrely, November, December.
Yeah.
Because you're starting to plan for the next year. And I'm just like, oh boy. You have no idea really what's coming your way. And now I'm starting to do exactly that of hey, you got to chill out because you've had this mass anxiety and stress going into each year. And each year, you stay pretty consistent and it's fine. But every year you freak out. You're like,
it's because in this industry, when you go online, all you see, or you probably even in your office, all you see and all you hear is just constant people talking about how slow they are, right? I mean, it doesn't matter what the market's doing. There's just, for the last 2 or 3 years, the only thing I've seen on these mastermind groups is how many people talking about how slow they are. And you start freaking out, right? What if next year's my year to be slow? Versus the mentality of, you know what? It's apples and oranges, because you click on that person's profile and they have nothing about what they do. They got 17 friends. They don't have a business page. They don't have a website. They don't do anything to create work. And it's like, you know what? We're not the same.
Right.
Because it's the same for home inspections, so slow. It's just a terrible market. And it's wait a minute, you're in my market,
Right.
No, that's not true. And then you click on them and it's, oh, well, that's why. You got 300 friends, you have 0 social media engagement, you have 0 internet presence. All of your personal posts is you ranting and raving, hating agents, or you're putting all your political thoughts on the world for the whole world to see. And we know what that does nowadays. And no wonder, so we're not the same. So I can't freak out that the sky's falling because you say the sky's falling, because it's just raining on your side of the neighborhood. It ain't raining over here.
Well, and a big thing for me has always been and will always be, and it's a lot of my advice to new agents, is you work in a market. The reality of this market is it ebbs and flows. It literally changes all of the time. So you need to plan for that. The agents that make me laugh are the ones who get in, they make a bit of money, they go buy a nicer house, or they buy a nicer car, or they're acting so fancy. And I'm like, that is a terrible idea.
Yeah. Selling Sunset right here in Richmond.
Literally, you see it all the time. And I'm like, oh no. They sell 3 houses and then baby girl's in a BMW. And you're like, what? Yep. I don't know about that.
Yep.
And so, for me, I think you do have to be incredibly frugal as a business owner. You need to really plan for those rainy days, because no matter what, they're coming. You can do all of the things that you're supposed to be doing, but at some point you're going to hit a little bit of a lull, and you need to be prepared for that.
Yeah.
And that's my favorite too, is people who don't plan for their taxes and stuff. And I'm like, there are so many fees associated with this industry that people have no idea. And how are you not planning for them? I have planned a year in advance for all of the fees due for next year, because you have to. Otherwise, you're going to be real stressed out.
Yep. And we got last summer, because we have vehicles, and we just went through a period where I had about 10 grand worth of vehicle repairs at once. It was great. I enjoyed it.
Was fun.
I had tears when I went to my mechanic to pay the bill. And then I got hit up from, talking about a lot of agents try to portray that selling Sunset or whatever, right? This image of what a realtor is supposed to be, right? With the car and stuff. And then they turn around and ask for money, right? For sponsorships, for all their stuff. Because it's the image that they have to keep up. And then I got the phone call hey, can you sponsor this? No, I can't. Yeah. Well, why not? I just had a $10,000 unexpected vehicle repair bill. No, I cannot. But no,
Mm-hmm.
If you want to do this extravagant party, that's on you. I cannot, because I run a business.
You know what's so embarrassing? For the first literally 3 years of my career, I did not know that people got sponsorship or help or anything from lenders or vendors. I had no clue.
Yeah.
Like, I would put on client events or like split them with other agents and like do them together or whatever. And like all of my pop buys and all of my, like anything that I did, even to this day, I have not. There has been 2 times now in the 6 years that I have gotten a little bit of help, and it wasn't even they gave me money. It was like, yeah, we'll pass out candy with you.
Sure.
Like, and you know, they go to Costco and get a few bags of candy or whatever, but like, I had no idea. I had no clue. Yeah. Like, I was just out here like, all right, it's expensive. Like, well, I don't know.
To be fair though,
not a single clue.
I mean, I know it's individual agents and teams at Liz Moore, you got that, but Liz Moore as a whole, you know, at least the Richmond office, they don't really hit up a lot for that.
Some of them do. I think the lenders are the ones that get hit quite a bit.
They do.
And you know, and I kind of laugh because I'm like, man, like, especially in those early years, I was like kind of crushing it. And I was like, that was a lot of my like custom home build, like whatever. And so I'm like, man, I gave certain lenders like millions and millions in sales volume and never asked for a thing because I had no clue that I could.
Yeah.
And I'm like, now I look back and I'm like, damn, that would have been the time to like be like, hey, I want you to do a client event with me or something, but not a single clue.
Yeah. Well, some states they've completely outlawed it.
Yeah.
Yeah, completely banned it.
Well, that's what's crazy too. Apparently some people can like give you kickbacks. Like, that's legal here in Virginia. I had no idea.
There's some gray areas there.
Is there? I had
there's some gray
no clue.
Areas.
Like, people were like, well, what is your lender doing for you? And I was like, I don't know what you're saying. Like, they're doing their job.
I forget what it's called, but lenders have a legal way. Like,
it's in our purchase agreement.
They can, you know, for me, I'm not allowed to do pay to play.
No, that would be sketchy as heck. Like, absolutely not.
No, there's still some companies out there doing it.
That's wild to me.
Because I've had that conversation with agents, like, I would love to use you, and the way they get around it is that home inspector provides money for a monthly marketing, quote unquote. And well, that's pay to play. No, it's going to our marketing budget. No, that's pay to play. And that's fine if that's what you want to do.
That seems very sketchy.
Not, you know, just like if, you know, I sponsor something for you and then you use, I can't be but so mad if you go use a different home inspector.
Do you have to disclose that then? So like, we have like affiliate business disclosures because we have a title company that's like associated with the brokerage, but like people they still get a choice, right? And I still have to have them sign the disclosure form saying like, hey, this is what it is. This is how much money like goes into it, whatever. And it's like, it's outlined that like this is a relationship with the brokerage, but it's not even me, right? Like, I don't benefit from this at all. You do whatever you want, but I feel like you should have to disclose that.
You should have to.
That seems crazy.
But because this is not even really, like, we're going into semantics to get around the rule. They're definitely not disclosing it now.
That is shady.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. And it's frustrating to no end when that's what you're competing against, right? So then that's when I found out that somebody's doing that in the office. My entire mission at that point is just to take all the business without pay to play. And because I have had agents call me and say, yeah, I got a call from this home inspector and he's kind of mad at me because I'm like, good.
Well,
you know, and I don't care about other companies, right? I just care about like, you use who you want to use, build a relationship with that person. You know, if you don't use me, that's cool. Right. Doesn't mean we can't be friends. Doesn't mean we can't hang out. But use me because you like how we operate and how we do things, not because I give you money. Yeah.
And I also like...
And then force it on other people on your team or brokerage that, oh, well, we really need to use this company because then you turn into, you're not giving them, your clients, the option. Let's be honest. Like, you brush over it maybe, but like, hey, this is my preferred guy. Let me just go ahead and call him.
And that's where I think agents need to be really careful is because a lot of them are like, okay, well, this is your only option. And it's like, no, you can't do that. Like, and a lot of, you know, I see a lot of lenders or even vendors who are trying to make that a requirement of agents, and they're trying to like bully you into like, no, just tell them like, this is who I use. And I'm like, that is going to make me lose my license.
It is.
Like, absolutely not. Like, I can give them a list of recommendations and they can do their research. But no, I can't just be like, this is your only option. Like, this is who I use. Go ahead and give them a call. Yeah. Absolutely not.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, I mean, if I see you do a Facebook Live and like, hey, I'm at a home inspection day and I'm sitting on my couch, I'm like, hey, Mandy, that's weird. I'm at home. It's 100% joking with you, right? Because, I mean, I get it. You know?
I would not, like, literally. And that, like, that drives me nuts, too. If, as long as you're actually very good at what you do and you're responsive and you have good communication and you actually care and like whatever, like I am a loyal girl. Yeah. Like I do not stray from these relationships because I value them and because like I understand what it's like on the other side. Yeah. Like 100%. When friends or family don't use me as their agent, it literally breaks my heart. Sure. Like I'm like, even just give me the chance to interview. Right. Like that's it. Or at least tell me that you decided to go with someone else. But if I just see it, like it literally hurts me. Yeah. And so I don't ever want to do that to the relationships that I've built. And, you know, and my thing is, and I think you would agree, like I am not in the business of trashing other agents to clients, you know, like I would never. And, you know, even when I've been in interview situations and they're like, well, we're interviewing other agents. And I'm like, great, who? And they'll tell me, and I'm like, they're a really good agent. Like this is great news for you. Yeah. Either way, you're going to have somebody awesome handling your transaction. Yeah. Like I would love for it to be me, but I'm really happy to hear that it's somebody else who I know is really good. Yeah, 100%. I mean, I've talked to tons of agents and of course they say, you know, my primary home inspector is, you know, and it's the same thing. Like, hey, you know, I've never heard anything bad about them. They got to get whatever the case is, you know? Cause if you're willing to trash another business to get business, you're not somebody I want to do business with. Yeah. Because because, you know, we got pest control, summertime, we get pest guys door knocking, right? Yeah. And, you know, I've had one come to the door and, you know, asking about service. So like, now I get all mine for free. I don't, but I joke. You know? Like, oh, yeah, with who? I was like, oh, with Pest Now. They just give it to me free because I refer to so much business. I know the owner, right? And I had one literally start bad-mouthing the company. I was like, do you really think this is going to work? Yeah. This is how you're going to get my business, by trashing a business that I know the owner of? It is never a good look. Yeah, and he just shut up. Even if it's true. Yeah. Even if that company is trash garbage. Like, you know, there's builder companies here in town. You will not hear me say anything. Right. Like, I will just say, please do your research. Just quick Google 100%. And make your decision. Yeah, we get that. Like, that's it. Day of the inspection. Hey, I've read a lot of bad reviews about this builder. I'm like, well, one, we're here. That ship sailed. And I always say too, I said, you know, it all depends on different variables. You know, some of my best inspections have been with this builder, some of my worst ones. It all depends on project manager, subs, all the things, how involved you are with the process. Do you have a good agent? All the things, you know, so it's, you know, and not in a day, it's a complex process, you know, so, no, if that's your business model, it's a desperate business model. Yeah. And it will not work. And I've heard, you know, you overhear agents kind of trying to throw other people under the bus. Yeah. And it's like, okay, like it's one thing if you're talking agent to agent or like you've had a really bad experience and it's people behind the scenes, right? Like my coworkers or whatever, but like never will you hear me say it anywhere near my clients or other people's clients. Like, no. Yeah. Absolutely not. Yeah. It's just one of those things that, we can have secret conversations, you know, off the record, just you and me, but it's just not a good look. If that's how you're trying to get business. So, we've been talking for almost an hour. What a joyous hour it's been. So let's talk about the, you running out of memory over there? Uh-oh. No, I was just going to say it is an hour. Yeah. She's just trying to tell us to shut up. I know, right? So let's talk about the event. Oh, I loved the event. Yeah. So that was a good turnout. We have to talk about what it was. And like, I had no idea anything about the foundation. And I am genuinely like so impressed by what it is that they do.
Yeah, they do a lot. The Fatherhood Foundation of Virginia does a lot of, the whole mission is to create stronger dads.
Yeah.
And to get dads be present in their kids' lives. Because you can read all the statistics about a fatherless home and how the kids turn out and the struggles and all the things, incarceration rates go up, drug use, alcohol use, all those things go up. And they're doing a great job of going across the Commonwealth to teach dads how to be dads, new dads, incarcerated dads, dads are just struggling just to make it. They gave out 15,000 diapers
for the diaper drive.
For the diaper drive. That was pretty cool.
That is so cool.
Yeah, because the whole thing is dads change diapers too. So they gave away 15,000 diapers to dads who need them.
Yeah, and like couples coaching and coaching for co-parenting, like all of that. Like the idea is stronger dads for stronger families, right? And so I just loved it. I was so like, I really didn't know what it was or what it is that they did, but it's really important. Yeah, so we did a karaoke fundraiser to raise some money for the foundation. We raised, I think, a little over $4,000 total. That's awesome. And it's not done yet, right?
It's not done.
People can still donate.
My campaign's up to almost $7,200.
Yeah.
So what was your goal? We all have a goal. The Funding Fathers, all of us have a goal of 10,000.
Okay.
Total for the whole campaign.
Okay.
So 5,000 is a really respectable number.
Yeah.
But 10,000 is the goal. I think the guy who won last year was around 13,000. I think the record's like around 18,000 that a dad did. And this is the 8th or 9th year they've done the Funding Father campaign itself, which is just a group of dads trying to compete to who can raise the most money over the summer.
Do you only get to do one event, or can you do as many as?
No, we can do whatever we want. So the August 1st, in 2 weeks from when we're recording this, we're doing a networking thing over at River City Roll.
Fun.
We're gonna be accepting donations, but it's truly a networking social, just to get people out there before summer ends. River City's giving us the space for free.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
good for them.
Come out, network, socialize, do the business thing.
Do I get to come?
You do get to come. Otherwise, we're not going to have it.
Fair.
But no, it was a great time. We got a couple. We're going to do. I think we'll do a jiu-jitsu seminar at the gym.
I'm
Donations
not going to
only. So you can do whatever you want. One guy's doing like a raffle. He's selling gun tickets for raffles, and another guy's doing just a bunch of different things that they come up with. So
that's really cool.
Yeah,
no, I am like I said, just very impressed and like super stoked to get more involved and just do more support for them, because I just think it's so important and it's such a need that wasn't being met at all.
It is,
which is sad.
It is, and it's just because there's just this stigma, and then just a differencing in messaging in 2024 about fathers and men and dads and all the things. Like I said before, you're too toxic masculinity. You're not masculine enough. You're
right.
too strict. You're too loose. You're whatever. Nobody knows.
It has to be very confusing.
Right. Right. And it's like, man, I just want to raise good kids.
Yeah.
Be present for my kids and raise productive members of society at the end of the day.
And there's just not a lot of resources for teaching men specifically how to do that. Women have a lot of great community and resources and mom groups and all of these things that I clung to as a new mom. And, even being raised, you're kind of prepped for that, but they don't do that typically. I have a little boy, and every time that he's running a vacuum or sweeping off the porch or something, I'm like, okay, this is great. I want him to be capable and confident in doing all of these things as he gets older, but there's just such a need for that now. So much of that didn't happen to where men don't feel empowered to step in and do their roles and shine in these relationships.
Well, it goes back like we talked about before. It's the stereotypes of you go on vacation next week, and it's like, well, can your husband handle the kids?
I know.
Who's going to watch the kids?
That's the part that drives me nuts. They're like, oh, well, you're showing us houses. So who has your kids? I'm like, they have this giant man that's a dad who's created them. So they're good.
Yeah. So that's just that whole stigma there.
Yeah.
And because it's just a running joke, after a while, you just start believing it. You
Yeah.
know? I was like, well, I mean, society thinks I don't know what I'm doing, so I guess I'll just go to work and come home and
Right.
drink,
And how many of them
whatever.
don't even try? Like,
Yeah.
I remember...
Because it's a losing battle.
Yeah, my husband was babysitting for the first time when we were dating, and he called me and he was like, I think I'm doing this diaper wrong. And he's like, where do the tabbies go? And I was like, they go on the back. And he's like, oh, okay. But I'm like, man, like they don't, you know, like even down to like, I think men do want to change diapers and they want, but like they don't know how.
Yeah.
And people, instead of like shaming them, it's like just show them how so that they know how to do
the whole
it.
process is from the time you're pregnant till the baby's born, and then after, it's all the focus is entirely on mom. You know, how to be a mom. You know, how to do this, how to feed them, how to change the diapers, how to do all the things. How
and
to
even
fix the bottle.
afterwards, like, you know, my brother just had his first baby and I called him and I was like, how are you guys doing? Like, how are things? And he told me and I was like, okay, how are you? And he starts telling me about his wife again. And I said, no, how are you?
Yeah.
And he was like, oh, I'm fine. And I was like, no, like, how's it going? But I think it's hard.
'Cause it's always how's mom and the baby.
Yeah. And I don't even think you guys have the thought of like, how am I? Because you're only focused and everybody else is only focused on mom and the baby.
Yeah. So they're doing a great job.
That's awesome. I love it.
Have you guys seen the movie? It has Kevin Hart in it. I can't remember the name of it, but it's where one of the scenes is he's taking care of this like baby and he goes into one of the like parent groups. And it's like a mom group, but it says for parents.
Yeah.
And he's like, I don't know what I'm doing. What do I do with this? Why is she always crying?
Was this Daddy Daycare?
Maybe.
Is that the movie?
That's not Kevin Hart. That was before Kevin Hart. That was
Okay.
Eddie Murphy.
I'm going to look it
I
up.
see. Yeah, you should look it up.
Yeah.
But yes, I feel like that is like the amount of, you know, even one of my good guy friends, his wife is pregnant and they're going to have their first baby. And he showed up to the 4th of July party and like my husband was in the parking lot with him and he was just like, how you doing, man? He's like, he just like unloaded and he was like, yep, you're exactly where you should be.
Right
and he's
on
like,
track.
I just like, I don't know. Like, how do you know what to, and we were just kind of laughing. Cause like, that is like, he is exactly where he should be. Like, but I think that probably happens a lot as dads just like, what the hell am I doing? Like someone help. And these guys are actually helping. So that's awesome.
That's awesome. But yeah, they're a great organization. Happy to be a part of it. And
Fatherhood? I think is the name.
Okay.
All right. I don't know if I've seen that one. I'll have to watch it. I'm sure it's funny.
I have not seen it either.
It's just that one scene.
I have seen,
Just that one
it was
scene.
just off of TikTok. I've seen that scene like multiple times.
Yeah, that's funny. So, well, we've been talking for over an hour now. Appreciate you coming out.
Hour and 7 minutes.
Hour and 7 minutes.
minutes.
And we didn't lose power or memory on anything. So I'm proud of Courtney today, being a Monday
I'm
morning.
proud of us at 9 a.m. on a Monday.
Yeah. You know, Mandy wanted to do it sooner, but like, no. Courtney, there's a Courtney I got to deal with.
That's what he said. I literally was like, I mean, earlier the better for my schedule. And he was like, okay, but Courtney will kill me. So can we do 9? And I was like, yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
I said, buy her a coffee.
I'm over an hour away, so yeah.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
That's not ideal.
Yeah. I mean,
We gotta move you closer.
I am
she's working on it.
Yay.
in August.
Oh, that's exciting. Congratulations.
But yeah, we'll do this again when you get back.
All right, we shall.
All right.